Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We still have some folks joining in for today's webinar, so we'll get started in just about a minute. Thank you. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, XTM Private Cloud, the Benefits of Migrating. My name is Billy Burnett, and I'll be the host of today's webinar. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. First, we encourage questions throughout today's webinar. You can utilize the questions section in the GoToWebinar panel to submit them as they come to mind. And of course, we'll aim to save some time at the end to answer as many as we can. Second, this webinar is being recorded and you will automatically receive a link to the recording within 48 hours of today's webinar concluding. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by some terrific experts who will be sharing their knowledge about XTM cloud types, including our special guest and XTM user, Stephanie Boyer. Vasilis, Jan, Lena, and Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us today. We have a busy agenda for you today for this webinar. Vasilis will start out with an introduction to XTM Private Cloud to help set the stage, and then he'll dive into what indicators mean it might be a good time to migrate to private cloud. Then we'll talk about the benefits of migrating, including a special focus on if you're migrating from suite versus public cloud. Then we'll turn things over to Jan to talk about the migration process. And last, we'll wrap up with our case study interview with Lena and Stephanie before we move into Q&A. So without further ado, I'll pass things over to Vasilis. Vasilis, over to you.
Thank you, Billy. If you could click on the slide to move forward, please. If not, let me see if I can share my screen here.
There we go.
Thank you. So let's have a quick overview of the private cloud and what does it entail. So we in XTM we have three different versions of cloud, actually flavors. So it's the public cloud, private cloud, and the XTM suite, which is the on-premise version of the XTM cloud. So from the public cloud to the private cloud, the move there will have some changes since you'll be from a multi-tenant instance to a single-tenant instance. So what does it entail? This means that the cloud server will only be fully dedicated to you. You are the only user on that cloud, on that instance, on that server. So this allows you to have a faster connection, and your instance can now handle easier heavy workload readiness. So it gives you the option to deliver and process more projects if your workload is increasing and you have quite a heavy workload. So this means that also when your licensing number will increase to actually cover the requirement for a private cloud, which is 50 users, the private cloud can also give you the possibility for unlimited concurrent licenses. So you can go from 50 to infinite. As with any private cloud setups, we can customize the hardware configuration. That's your server there, so we can set up however your requirements are set up or configured to provide the most robust and, say, capable installation options for your server there. With a private server, you also get a dedicated account manager. And the private server can be hosted either on AWS, on Amazon, or OVH, providing you the highest level of security and monitoring options for your private instance. A major difference between the private or suite and private and public cloud model is that the upgrades are taking place only when you agree to those dates. So you tell us when we upgrade your instance, compared to the suite, which has to be performed manually, and to the public cloud, which is an overall update taking place throughout the entire server. And the most important aspect from the private server version is that the private server also allows you to have two different instances. One will be your UAT or test instance, and one will be a separate dedicated production instance. Now, these two instances will also be able to be upgraded in different dates and timestamps. So you may have your test instance on the previous version of the cloud or the latest version of the cloud, and your production instance on a different version. That's how private instance works and allows you to set up your updates however it fits best your schedule. So moving on to how or when is it a good time to migrate over to a private instance. So there are some indicators to look at when you want to move from a suite or public cloud to a private server. Some of the key indicators will be an increase in number of concurrent users. So if your users are no longer able to log in all the time, then you will need more licenses. Then you would have to increase your number of users. And as I mentioned before, if you reach the number of 50 users, then that's a pretty good way to go from public cloud to private instance. Equally goes the same with translation projects. If you start having an increase in volume, then you could see that this is a good time to move on to a more upgraded and more powerful server configuration, which can be provided with a private instance. The private instance gives you also for more control over your instance and enhanced monitoring, since you are the only ones living in that server. And the monitoring options from our support will allow you to have more access to any issues or any logs specific to any problems happening on the server. And you can also have a clear view of where the server stands and what the server's health is. As mentioned before, the AWS configuration provides you with added security, as well as the OVH, private instances. And the need for additional non-production instances is a clear indicator when you need to test some specific workflows with your XTM account or need to connect some specific connectors to your XTM instance. That's where the UAT private instance comes into play and provides you with the option to test everything there, and then once everything is validated, move it on to your production environment. And then the latest option here, the latest indicator would be need for specific hardware configuration or server configurations. Some options that exist on either the XTM suite or the XTM public cloud may not be configurable for all the users there. So if you, let's say, need to extend your archiving time for your projects on the public cloud, that cannot be a part of the global settings because it will affect all the tenants of that cloud. But if you go into a private instance, you can configure that however you want. That's the liberty of the private instance there. So once you see one of these indicators, that's a pretty good time to migrate over to a private instance. Right, so what you get by migrating to the private instance, what the benefits? So let's take the option where you migrate from an XTM suite to the private cloud. So the XTM suite version is the on-premise version. That's the only version of XTM where it's actually located within your environment. And that has some benefits security-wise, but mostly also has some negative aspects, which is connected with maintenance, troubleshooting, and support. Because it's located in your environment, our support agents might have some difficulties accessing that instance there to provide support and troubleshoot. So the first thing that migrating from XTM Suite gives you to a private instance is that you don't have to manage anything. We take it over for you. So your IT department doesn't have to interfere anymore. Our support takes care of all the maintenance, and our experts are working hand in hand with you to solve any potential issues. As with the other private instances, you now tell us when to upgrade your private suite. So whenever that's fine with you. And the TMS is now monitored 24/7 by our team, not your IT department. that allows them to quickly solve any issues and provide you with the support that wasn't available before in the XTM suite flavor of XTM. Let's say that you're moving from the public cloud over to private suite, private instance. First of all, what you get is 50 plus users and the option, of course, to go with infinite users if that's required. So you might go to a limitless configuration of users in the system. You have an enhanced performance of your XTM instance by taking away the queue for all your project creations and for all your actions within the system. Now there are no, let's say, multi-tenant queues. You only have your own dedicated queue on your server, which ensures a quicker delivery and quicker process of your projects there. And you also get enhanced security when you move to AWS, which comes with its own security package. Now, the absence of multi-tenant queue, of course, provides a faster delivery of translation projects. And the private server installation also may cover some requirements where we have some customers saying that we have to be located in a specific location, let's say in the US or in the Europe in a specific area. So since the server is private, we can set it up wherever you want and tailor-made it to your needs. Again, you can choose whenever the server gets updated and upgraded. And you also have two instances, as I mentioned before, testing and production. And our team takes care of all monitoring, management, and troubleshooting of your instance, part of our support package as well. So to conclude, for both XTM Cloud, Public Cloud, and XTM Suite, if you migrate over to a private instance, the one of the most important aspects, of course, is a highest level of security. The data is always kept confidential and they're always encrypted, even in rest or in transit. There is always a dedicated backup solution taking place daily. We back up all the data daily, but again, that also be configured because you are now on a private server. It can also be configured to whatever time interval you want to set it up. The private instance gives you a centralized log system, allowing us to perform RCA quicker and give you options and more information on any potential issues by using those centralized logs. Of course, all our instances come with a dedicated antivirus protection and full drive encryption using TSL2 for data at rest and in transit as well. On the private instances, we perform security scans to make sure that all the data is there and is secure and there is no contamination or anything related with any security threats. The private instance also allows us to have an easier and quicker RCA for forensic investigation of any potential issues on your instance. And of course, with the fully customized and configurable server configuration, you can enhance performance on your system and on your system resources. So let's say you see slower queues for analysis or slower input on your workbench, we can beef up your server configurations on the hardware to meet up your demands there. So these are the primary benefits of migrating from XTM Cloud and XTM Suite.
All right.
And how would I do that? So to talk about migration process, I guess it's time for Jan now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jan Magnuszewski, and I'm responsible for IT operations department at XTM. Our IT maintenance team has conducted a number of migrations, and today I'd like to briefly walk you through the process. All right. How do we organize the migration? The support ticket is primary point of contact. We set appropriate date and time for the migration. Typically, for this one last step, we need about 5 hours of downtime. But I will tell you a bit more about it later. If that is XTM Suite or XTM Private Cloud migration, we acknowledge the order with you but usually the non-production instance comes first. Everything in your database will be copied to the new instance, and you don't have to worry about anything. And we can skip to the next one. Thank you. What does the process look like from a more technical standpoint? First, we install servers and operating system along with our XTM application. At this stage, we validate the installation for the first time. Later, we copy the whole content from the all environment. This is the stage where we test the installation from multiple angles. Furthermore, we perform some benchmark to know how much time we would need for the final migration. The last is the final migration. When it's finished, our support checks the system for the last time and lets you know that the system is up and running. And some additional insights. Previously, I mentioned that after copying the content, we validate the new installation. Additionally, at this stage, you have the chance to test the platform as well. If you have some sophisticated API integration, you can point it out to the new platform, which is still non-production one, and check if it works. And last but not least, there is a good rollback plan because actually we have two platforms, the old one and the new one. If there will be some serious failure, we can still switch over to the old platform and you are safe. So basically, that is how we organize the process of the migration.
All right. Thank you very much, Jan. Very helpful. And now we'll move into the last portion of the webinar today, which is our case study featuring Lena and Stephanie. So Lena, I'll pass things over to you to get things started.
Hi everyone. So I'm Lena Tavanidu. I'm customer success consultant, and together we will be actually going through all that you heard from Vasilis and Jan, in our everyday discussion. But we heard it great, very explanatory, but it's always better to hear from someone who has actually gone through the whole process. And for that, we have Stephanie Boyer, localization and documentation lead at Talent. Stephanie, welcome. It's great to have you with us. What about we start with a quick introduction about Talent and hear from you why localization is so important.
Okay, hello everyone. So I am Steph. Talent is a data integration company. We care about data quality, data health, and helping customers navigate through tons of data. So data is our thing. What I like personally about localization is the user experience side of thing, and I do a lot of UI work. I've been with Talent. I've been in the localization industry for almost 2 decades, and in Talent for 5 years. Sorry, not decades.
Wow, that's a lot. So you have seen quite a few things. Seth, could you tell us a bit about the initial setup you had? How many people you had working in your XTM account? What departments were involved and were using your account?
Yeah, so when we started, when I joined Talent, there was a few people doing localization everywhere in the company. We had people in marketing and legal. I'm in the R&D, and there was one person already working on French in the R&D. So it was messy, and everybody was working offline. So we decided to find an online solution, and after we evaluated a few platforms and went with XTM. So initially, when we at the R&D started with XTM, people didn't really see the point, and they stayed with whatever their solutions were. But so initially we had just myself and a French translator in-house at the R&D. That was and other people were on Madcap, Flare, and Lingo, with a few people also on SDLX. So everybody was kind of doing their own things when we started off.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you have started with public cloud, but
yes, public cloud. Yeah.
What was that made you decide that it's a good time to move to a private installation? What was it that made you need that?
Yeah. So over time, we got the enablement team to join us on XTM. We also implemented machine translation in XTM, so people from legal and other departments joined to use the machine translation. And more people were joining, and also but more than the people, it was the processes that we set up. We really pushed the API as far as we could. So we had a lot of processes that were automated through the API, and over time, we were getting stuck behind other people's queue in the public cloud, and it was hard to tell a developer that they have to wait because somebody you don't know where sent something you don't know how big, and you don't know how long it's going to take. So we needed more control, and we needed to have transparency on when stuff was going to come through. So speed and control was our reasons for migrating.
Mm-hmm. Great insight. So it was users, more sophisticated processes, and integrations. So based on that and what you already knew from public cloud, what did you hope that you would gain from this migration to private installation?
Yeah, we wanted predictability. We wanted to know that if we push something, it's going to take X amount of time to get processed. So, which we couldn't with the public cloud because we were dependent on what other people were doing, and of course nobody was publishing their schedules ahead of time, so you didn't know if a job was going to take 20 seconds or 20 minutes or 2 hours. So that was the main reason for migration, and that was what we hoped to gain.
Great. So Jan explained before the steps that we have through a migration process, but how did it look like from your point of view? How was it? How did you experience the whole migration?
The migration was very simple, but there's almost nothing to say about it except we were worried because we have an experience of simple things going very wrong. So we were probably too cautious and we backed up everything, even though we knew you were going to do it too, but we backed up everything and asked tons of questions. But in the end, all we had to do was change the URL. All the customers were recreated with the same ID, so our APIs could still work. The users are the same password, so everybody was able to reconnect instantly on the new instance, on a new server. So it really was very, very simple for us.
We're very happy to hear that it went as smooth on your end as well. So based on that and considering that you're now almost quite some time on private cloud, have you seen the benefits you were expecting?
Yeah, that's a strong selling point because for our upper management, that we can say that we did get the speed that we wanted. Everything is going through much faster. We were able to customize the amount of computing power that we can afford to spend on the analysis part of the job, which was our concern. So everything comes through very quickly. So that's the main benefit. So speed, predictability, control was what we wanted, and we really got that. So we were very happy, and we we want to stay. And because it works well now with the private cloud, we can really sell the solution also, and we're trying to get marketing to move to the private cloud with us, which would mean they could lose the solution that they use now, so that we would save on that budget if they did move, you know. So because the private cloud is strong and stable, we have a better case to try and make it the one solution for talent.
Great. We are very happy to hear that, and that we have helped you grow and expand within your own company. This is always very important. So thank you very much, Stephanie.
No problem.
It has been extremely helpful hearing your side as well.
Thank you. No, my pleasure.
And
yes.
Billy, I guess back to you.
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you both. That was a terrific discussion and very, very insightful. So thank you for sharing. So with that, we'll move into just a final couple of slides before we move into our brief Q&A portion, since we do still have a few minutes left before the bottom of the hour. So first of all, just going to launch a quick poll to gauge those of you that are on the webinar here listening in, if you'd like to learn more about migrating to XTM Private Cloud. So I'll just launch that poll up here now, and you should be seeing it. If you could just take a quick moment to vote, that would be very helpful. And looks like we already have more than 50% voted, so I will leave it up for just about 5 more seconds or so. All right. Thank you for participating, and now we'll move back into the slides. One final thing before we get to Q&A. I wanted to share an exclusive offer with those of you who are attending today's webinar. Since you've been interested in private cloud and are attending today, we'd like to offer a special offer for you that if you choose to move forward with private cloud before the end of the year, we'll be able to waive your migration fee. So as you heard during the discussion today, XTM takes care of the bulk of the migration process. So all you need to do is sign an agreement to move forward with the private cloud before the end of this year, and you'll receive that offer. The migration itself can certainly take place in 2023 at a time convenient for you. So with that, we'll move into the Q&A portion, and it looks like we've had a couple of questions come in, and maybe the first one could be for either Jan or Vasilis, but you kind of mentioned maybe start to finish, Jan, but can you just go over again on average how long the migration process typically takes?
Sure. Overall lead time is about 2 weeks, but the final migration step, usually it's 5 hours, but it depends. Sometimes that's big installation with a huge database, and that is why we perform this benchmark. So during the migration, we check how much time do we need for the final step, and if there is more than usual, we of course inform the customer via support ticket that probably we would need more time than this 5 hour mark.
Got it. All right. Thank you. And looks like we can maybe squeeze one more question in before we reach 30 minutes past. So Vasilis, maybe this one's for you perhaps. But when it comes to performance, how much better does XTM Private Cloud perform versus public cloud? Is there any kind of benchmark or things that indicate what performance might be like?
That's a pretty good question, Billy. There is no benchmark. We cannot compare this directly. There is no unique number there. It depends on your specific use case, how many projects you are processing, how many languages you're processing, if you're using machine translation. On an average, the private instance will always be faster than the public cloud because we can set up the processing power of your server, including the RAM, to be able to handle any amount of content you're pushing through. So regardless if you're pushing, I don't know, 40 languages with 3 machine translation engines, if the server is set up to those specs, there will be no downtime, there will be no delays there. Again, it's on a user-to-user basis, but let's say it's always faster than the public or the suite instances.
Perfect. All right. Well, it looks like that's about all the time we have for today. Certainly want to be respectful of all of our schedules here and for those of you that are attending today. So we'll go ahead and move to wrap up today's discussion. Of course, thank you to all of our attendees for joining us today. And a special thanks to our presenters, Vasilis, Jan, Stephanie, and Lena, for sharing your insights and leading a very thought-provoking discussion about XTM Private Cloud. Of course, if you have any other further questions about private cloud, you can reach out to your customer success manager and they'd be happy to continue the conversation with you. And of course, you can always send an email as well to marketing if you need further assistance. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up and wish you all a very pleasant rest of the week. And we hope to see you on another XTM webinar here shortly. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.